Wasabi guys, Void here coming back at y'all with yet another pre-release video. This time we're going to be covering all the green cards in the set, going to give you guys my honest opinion about limited playability, in hopes that this is going to be good preparation for pre-release weekend, as well as draft weekend. I'm a huge fan of Limited, that's why I've been doing this series. This is the last video I'm going to be doing for Rivals of Ixalan as far as regarding Limited, new cards, everything. And then I'm going to go back to making Commander videos, so to those people who didn't like the series, I'm going to cover new sets, get over it. I do Commander videos every other day. But anyway, we're going to get on to the actual video here. We're going to start off with the first card, which is Ghalta Primal Hunger. 12 mana. Pretty expensive for a 12/12 with trample, but insane cost reduction. This is ridiculous. An Elder Dinosaur, massive creature, costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you already control, which isn't that hard to get in green, guys. It's all about getting massive creatures anyway. So we're not even talking about just 2 mana for a 12/12. We're talking about reasonably, 6 mana for a 12/12? It's still insane. You don't need that many creatures to get insane value out of this card. It has trample. It has what you're looking for. It's an absolute bomb. One of the biggest ones in the entire set. If you draft it, it's obviously a first pick. Brilliant card. Have to build around it if you get it, honestly. Even if your green pool isn't that great, splash other colors, make it work. Hopefully you get some decent mana fixing, but you have to go with it. I mean, it's that good. Forerunner of the Heralds is the Herald for the Merfolk. You get a Merfolk on the top of your deck. Merfolk are actually pretty decent. They're not unplayable. You could very easily go with a Merfolk tribe deck in Rivals of Ixalan Limited, because you're also going to be getting a pack of Ixalan, or 2 packs of Ixalan as far as pre-release goes, and then 1 pack of Ixalan, I believe, for draft. So you have a lot of good evasion-based creatures, a lot of good +1/+1 counter synergies. Whenever the Merfolk enters the battlefield, you can then put a +1/+1 counter on Forerunner of the Heralds, so it can get pretty big. It doesn't have evasion, doesn't have other keywords, but it gives you a way to tutor up a good Merfolk. Who knows, if you're playing multiple, you can then tutor up the other Forerunner, and then have that Forerunner tutor up another Merfolk, and just keep the chain going. That's pretty decent. And then we go on to another incredible bomb in Polyraptor. I mean, green has easily the 2 most exciting bombs in the set. Polyraptor's the other one. 8 mana for a 5/5. You actually have to pay the mana cost. Doesn't have that crazy cost reduction, but it's still worth it for 8 mana. The Enrage trigger is that good. Whenever Polyraptors deal damage, create a token that's a copy of Polyraptor. It is a token copy, so it also has the Enrage trigger. Let that sink in. Every single time you want to deal damage, every single time you want to attack your opponents, if they block, you get more Polyraptors. It's insane. There's no reason why you shouldn't just win the game right there on the spot, unless your opponent has that 3 mana board wipe in white. That's literally like the only thing that can stop it. But anyway, I mean, you have to go with it. You don't even have to play Dinosaur Tribal to play it. It's just that good. If you're playing green at all, it's a good reason to play. Deeproot Elite, a fantastic card for Merfolk. Whenever Merfolk enter the battlefield, you get to put +1/+1 counters on target Merfolk. It's not just itself like the Forerunner, it puts it on any Merfolk. So your good evasion based unblockable Merfolk, she gets a +1/+1 counter. Your already big Merfolk can get more +1/+1 counters. You could sort of bolster your weaker creatures, do something like that, all on a 2-drop. It is rare, so your likeliness of getting multiples, not that great. But if you do get it, pay attention to how many Merfolk you have in blue and green. Definitely worth it. Then we have another versatile creature. I don't know if she's necessarily a bomb. I would treat her like a bomb. She's good in green. 3 mana for a 2/1 that explores twice. Explores and then explores again, which doesn't have to be in a Merfolk based deck, which is another thing I should bring up. Explore is just a good keyword in general for consistency, no matter what creature explores in any color. So if you are playing green, definitely go with her. Path to Discovery, 4 mana. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. This is on an enchantment. Not that much enchantment removal. Likely going to stay on the field the entire duration of the game. And creatures are just going to get you more card draw, more +1/+1 counters on them. You get to look at the top of your deck and then make decisions on what you get next. It's fantastic. Maybe not super efficient, but if you have a deck with a lot of easy to get out creatures, getting +1/+1 counters on them with Explore is going to help you win. It's more consistency, easy to overlook, but it's definitely worth playing around. Thundershoot Dryad is another awesome card. Each upkeep, you get a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. A 5 mana for a 2/2 is weak, but you get more tokens each upkeep. Not just yours, but your opponent's upkeeps as well. So they have to respond to this quickly. If they leave it alone for a few turns, it's just going to get out of hand. You should be able to get the City's Blessing just by the tokens alone, which is super easy just to get that going. And then once you do have the City's Blessing, those tokens get +2/+2, which at that point is enough of an anthem to just swing out and likely kill your opponent, force them into a very uncomfortable situation. I love this card. It's definitely a bomb. Wayward Swordtooth, I would consider kind of a bomb, maybe not as much. It is a 5/5 for 3, which is great, but becomes a creature, attacks and blocks, I should say, when it has the City's Blessing, or when you have the City's Blessing. As Ascend, you get to play an additional land on each one of your turns, so one of those exploration effects, which are actually pretty decent and limited. The more lands you get, the more stuff you can do. It's basic math, but a 5/5 for 3, Ascend is actually more viable than you might think, so a 5/5 for 3 mana is amazing. Definitely worth playing. Then we have World Shaper. Maybe not something I would look for in Limited. Definitely something for Commander. Perfect Commander card. Doesn't really offer you much in Limited other than a 3/3 for 4. When it dies, you put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Hopefully, whenever it attacks, you get the top 3 cards. Hopefully, a lot of those are lands, and you get a bunch of lands back, but there's really no synergies elsewhere in the set that are going to just be busted with that. So probably stay away from it unless you need that extra Merfolk. And then you got a 3/3 body for 4 mana. Then we have another funny card. As far as uncommons go, this might just be one of the best ones, if not the best. Especially in green, you get a 5 mana for a 3/3 with Trample. When it enters the battlefield, you get to create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with Trample. So you have 6 power, 6 toughness, has Trample, all 6 of it, for just 5 mana. Usually we don't see good value creatures like these anymore, but that's insane. For the mana cost, we would usually expect something like 6 or maybe even 7 mana for something like this, but it's incredible value. Also a dinosaur, so if you want to go tribal, you can go tribal. This isn't just a staple in green, it's a staple in Naya dinosaurs, Gruul dinosaurs, Celestia dinosaurs, whatever route you want to go with dino decks. Pretty good card. Then we have Kakaphodon, I believe that's how you pronounce it. 4 mana for a 2/5 with Enrage. Whenever it's dealt damage, you untap target permanent. Not a huge fan, it's pretty weak, but it does offer you 5 toughness for 4 mana, which you can never really underestimate good value blockers in Limited. The whole format's based around good value creatures, period, so if you can get more toughness out there, you can block a lot of good creatures. And it's not terrible on tapping a target permanent. You can help yourself block more, untap a lot of your attackers, untap your lands, get more mana. Who knows? Pretty decent card. Then we have Cherished Hatchling. This card is actually pretty good. It's a 2-drop, 2/1 dino. When it dies, you get to cast a dinosaur spell. When it dies, you get to cast dinosaur spells this turn as though they had flash. And whenever you cast a dinosaur spell this turn, it gains when this creature enters the battlefield. You may have it fight another target creature. So it's indirect removal. You kind of have to depend on it dying. But if you do have some sort of sweeper effect, or I don't know what you would call those effects that can deal 1 damage to everything, at least you control. If it ends up dying that way, that's incredible, because then you can just play more dinosaurs, fight other creatures. In green, fighting is the best way that you can deal with the best threats in the format. Enter the Unknown is a awesome 1-drop card. Like I said, Explore is a good keyword regardless of what color it's in, but it just happens to work out pretty well in green. Target creature you control explores, and you get to play an additional land this turn. More importantly, the Explorer is a fantastic trigger. You either get a +1/+1 counter and a card that you want either in the graveyard or back on the top of the deck, or you get a land that was on the top of your deck in your hand. You don't have to draw it, you don't have to worry about your upkeep. Oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to get the card I need? I love the Explore mechanic, and this is a fantastic 1-drop. Swift Warden, 3 mana for a 3/3 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, target Merfolk you control gains hexproof until end of turn. This is brilliant. 3 mana for 3/3, good value, decent. With flash, it's even better. Giving a Merfolk hexproof is going to dodge so much removal, so much of those claustrophobia arrest effects that they decided to reprint, rename them in this set. If you want to go Merfolk, I can't think of a better Merfolk than this. Has flash, going to overwhelm your opponents with this type of effect. Helps your board state out, allows you to do more stuff on your turn. Flash is just such a good keyword. Thrashing Brontodon, probably one of these sleeper cards that I think is going to have a huge impact in the set. 3/4 for 3 mana. is already fantastic. Has an activated ability of 1, sack it to destroy target artifact or an enchantment, which on its own, artifact enchantment removal is pretty weak and limited, but it's already a good creature, so you get to main deck sideboard hate, and there's no downside because you get a good value dino. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Having main deck artifact enchantment hate means that if any scenario where your opponent has a ton of auras is out there and you have to deal with that, you have a way to sacrifice and then get rid of some sort of evasion based aura, and it can save your game entirely. So a card like this is something I'm definitely going to look for. Then we have Thunder Herd Migration, 2 mana sorcery, additional cost to cast it. Like in the other 4 colors, you have cost reduction dependent on whether or not you have a specific card in your hand. In this case, it's dinosaurs, or you have to pay that 1 extra, which would be 3 mana. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Pretty standard in green. If you've ever played Limited before, we have a ton of these cards that just tutor up lands. Ramp is always good. Strength of the Pack. 6 mana, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. What? Talk about anthems being good, but this is +1/+1 counters. There's token decks, the Saproling deck. You can build all around that 1 card, just make a ton of Saprolings, get other tokens out there, maybe some vampires, other small creatures, get +1/+1 counters on them for just 6 mana. Think of how much power and toughness you're gonna get for just 6 mana. Definitely worth it. If you're thinking of overlooking a card like this, do not sleep on it. 2 +1/+1 counters, that's it. It's so simple, but it's insanely powerful. A lot of good evasive creatures. Love getting more power and toughness. Colossal Dreadmaw is one of the cards that is getting a reprint from Ixalan, and it's pretty basic, 6/6 trample for 6 mana. It's worth playing if you have nothing better in green, and especially if you don't have any bombs, if you don't have those bigger creatures, they're going to seal the deal. You need to settle for something like this. Orazka Frillback, 3 mana vanilla dino, 4/2, basically the green version of the other dinosaur in red from Ixalan. It's good power for 3 mana, 4 power, give it some sort of evasion with an awesome enchantment, pump it up a bit. Even if you don't, it's still good. Swing in with it. Probably going to die, just 2 toughness, but decent value. Jungleborn Pioneer is a fantastic card, not just for merfolk, but if you just want some bodies. Gets you a 1/1 blue merfolk with hexproof upon entering the battlefield. We see the sort of attended knight effects where they get you tokens, get 2 bodies for 3 mana, one of which is hexproof, and perfect for merfolk if you want to go that route. Jadecraft Artisan is definitely something you shouldn't sleep on. 3/3 for 4, but when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Again, pair it up with some good evasive creatures. More power and toughness is never a bad thing. And as is, a 3/3 for 4 mana is not bad at all. We have Jade Bearer, 1 mana for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on another target merfolk you control. Again, fantastic. Getting more power and toughness on your creatures. Being able to choose, be selective of what creature gets that power and toughness boost is good with those 2 cards, and especially on a 1-drop that you can get out there pretty early. It has to be another target merfolk, which is the biggest downside about it, but shouldn't be too bad if you are going to play merfolk. Useless on turn 1, but beyond that, it's going to have value late game. Overgrown Armasaur. This is a card you can pair up with the Saproling token generator. 4/4 with an enrage trigger for 5 mana. Whenever it's dealt damage, you create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. Not the best enrage trigger, seeing as it doesn't really do too much for dinosaurs. Getting more Saprolings is never a bad thing as far as just throwing up something that you can defend with. There's some sacrifice effects that your opponents are going to try to force you to do something. You have some Saprolings to just sacrifice there. Easy chump blockers, pretty decent. A lot of those effects that can just easily deal 1 damage to dinos, trigger enrage. Far from the worst enrage trigger I've seen so far. Plummet is a good sideboard card, 2 mana. A lot of good creatures in Limited are going to have evasion, so I can't really think of any reason why you wouldn't want to pay attention to what cards you're drafting or what cards you have in your card pool. After sealed, whatever you open, don't just put it in a pile and throw it away. Look at it. Cards like these are actually valuable. Hunt the Weak. Green's way of removal is fighting creatures. Getting a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control is also going to ensure that creature gets bigger and likely survives whatever it's going to fight, which is awesome. It is 4 mana, a little bit hefty for the price, just sorcery speed, but removal is removal, and I'd rather settle on average removal than settle on a bad creature that's not going to hold up. Knight of the Stampede, 4 mana, 2/4 with cost reduction for dinosaurs you control. They cost 2 2 less to cast. This is actually pretty good. I mean, 4 toughness, 2 power, on it, 4 mana. Is a little weird, not going to do too much, no other keywords, but the cost reduction, if you're desperate for it, it's there. Not something I'm going to rush to play, but it's something. Now these next 2 cards are just insane 2-drops. I love these cards. Awesome reasons to play green. You have really good creatures here. We have Hardy Veteran 2-drop for a 2/2. As long as it's your turn, Hardy Veteran gets +0/+2, which is just ridiculous. Has no synergy with other tribes, but when you think about it, you're going to be attacking as early as possible for toughness. Turn 2 or turn 3, whenever you're going to attack, very few things are going to be able to hold up against it. So even if it doesn't synergize with merfolk or dinosaurs, which you would want it to synergize with, it's still good on its own as a filler creature. One of the better filler creatures easily in the entire set. Then we have Gilt Grove Stalker. Actually has the synergy with merfolk, a 2/1 for 2, but it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so it kind of has that same effect. A lot of the other creatures going up against it earlier on in the game are going to be helpless against it. Ideally, you want to chump block a 2/1 with a 1 power creature. They're not going to be able to do that, so they have to use their bigger creatures to block in order to spare themselves that 2 damage. So great creature, going to get in very early on in the game because of that. Then we have Aggressive Urge, a 2-mana instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you get to draw a card. Not fantastic. It's mainly going to be something I would include for card draw, especially as a filler. +1/+1 isn't going to do too much, but it is there if you need it. Naturalize, again, sideboard hate for non-creature permanents is usually something I tend to stay away from. I'm not going to pay attention to it too much. I would rather have sideboard hate against specific creatures, but you never know. There might be a heavy enchantment-based deck you have to deal with, or a deck that has an awesome artifact, which doesn't seem to be the case. Anyway, just focus on it as far as sideboards go. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video and my limited review, my pre-release review, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully it helped you guys as far as limited goes. Whether you want to draft with your friends, go to pre-release, go to draft weekend. Anytime you want to have fun with some good commons, uncommons that are probably never going to see the light of day beyond just this set. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please just leave a comment, like the video, share it. I know some people don't like me making these videos about limited because I'm a Commander channel, but I do like making other content. I'm a Magic the Gathering channel first. And plus, I like making videos that I like to make. So anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Void here, signing off.